My name is Abubakar Shoaib. Currently, I'm working with Cisco as a solution architect, and I'm covering quite broader range of technologies. I'm considered as a cross-architecture, cross-technology architect sort of person. The technologies that I mainly focus on are data centers, IoT, smart cities, collaboration, security, and mobility. Right? So, any problem that is targeted or that could be addressed through these technologies, I would help customers build a solution, architect a solution, an end-to-end solution for the final users. So the topic of the talk today is IoT enabling smart cities. So before we go into that, how many of you have heard about IoT? All right, precisely the number. Just not a fun fact, but a fact about IoT. And this is basically reflected in the room as well as now. So in worldwide, 84 or about late 80% of people do not even know about IoT. They do not even know what IoT stands for, let alone be what it does. Right? So it's precisely reflected in the room as well. I just saw, like, I don't know, 15-20% of the hands going up and that's it. But anyway, that's the purpose of the talk here. We want to see what IoT is in general, at a very high level, and how we can enable smart cities, what smart city means, and what are the architectural layers, how do we define that layer, what are the challenges in the market today, and how do we address them. Right? So first on the IoT itself. IoT, if you look at it, basically the way to define IoT is what we're talking about is connecting things to the network. And when I say things, we're talking about quite a broad range of things, right? So we're talking about things as simple as smart thermostat in your home, to the vehicles, to the satellites, to the, I don't know, to the refrigerators, to the televisions, to the mobile phones. So anything that can generate data, that can talk to another device is a thing. And basically IoT refers to connecting all these things to the network and enabling the network to let these things talk to each other and create a business out of it. And that could be, and when I'm saying talking to each other, we're talking about machine-to-machine interaction, right? So one machine talking to that machine and so on. And the idea is basically you connect these unconnected devices to the network, right? And you reap benefit out of it by simplifying the whole process. You take the human factor out of the whole process. You enable the whole process to run automatically and deliver certain services without any human intervention. Now, the problem is, like I said, like, for example, if you have a thermostat at home, right? It's a smart intelligent thermostat, which means it detects the temperature, it lets you know, it knows about your mood, you set your mood swings in the room. I mean, like you say, in the morning, evening, I feel like that, and it changes the environment according to you, without you actually dictating how it should be done. But when it comes to smart city, we're not talking about the things alone, right? So when we talk about things alone, we're just talking about specific problems being solved. But when we talk about a broader picture, then it's not just the things that we're talking about. We're talking about connecting all the unconnected people, processes, data, and people, processes, and data basically. You connect to the network and you build a relationship between these three or four elements. And this is where, instead of calling IoT, we at Cisco refer to as the Internet of Everything. Because we're not talking about just connecting things, but we're also talking about the things, people, data, and the processes. Connect all these dots together, and you get a real benefit, business benefit out of this. So one of the examples, for example, right? So in the smart city, let's take an example of waste management. So what's the waste management in a typical city? You have waste bins, at least it should be. We have waste bins spread across the city, right? Ideally, there should be a garbage collector truck that should go around the city, collect all that garbage, dump it somewhere. And this, so ideally it should be that way. But what's the problem with this process? First of all, it's very inefficient, right? So imagine I have this Starbucks, and I have thousands of, hundreds of thousands of garbage bin, the waste bins spread across the city. I have a few trucks, few drivers who are going to take it around the city, pick up all those garbage cans, dump it somewhere. It's very inefficient because these guys, regardless if there is waste or not, these guys still have to go into that area. They have to roam around the whole city, and it's quite a probability or possibility that they might not be able even to cover the entire city, right, in a day. They have to continue the other next day or increase the workforce to cover the entire city. Very inefficient. What it results in, not a very clean city, a kind of a dirty city, unhealthy environment. What else? Unhealthy environment, and then you have inefficient or unproductive people around your office. Now, bring the smartness into all this, right? Start connecting all the elements or all the characters in this process. So the character we have, I said 4 things: people, things, processes, and data, right? So think in this case as a waste bin. So if I can somehow enable waste bin to tell me proactively what it has in it, how much, what's the fill level, what kind of garbage it has, does it contain noxious gases, or it's harmful material, or it's just normal stuff, and what's the fill level. So that's the thing basically talking to me through a process, and that process could be, it is going to a gateway where it connects this sensor with these things, goes to the gateway, and gateway talks back to the data center or a business intelligence application. Right? That's a process. Where does the data come in? So data is going to be what waste bin is going to communicate to the control node in the backend. And where does the people fit in the source scenario? So now basically I have all the information that you look at it, right? So I have a visibility across the entire city. I can see the garbage collection or garbage distribution across the city. I can see what area of the city is more hazardous than the other one. And now I can redirect the team into specific areas and do a targeted sort of garbage collection, right? And that way, and by the way, that process could be also automated, where there are lots of services running out of cloud, where they provide a proper GIS system, which means I can tag all the waste bin on a map, and I can have a dashboard on a driver sheet where it says, okay, these are the waste bins that spread across the city, these are the high priority collection points, go on and collect these points. So this guy is not going to roam around the entire city spreading larger carbon footprint and adding pollution to the environment. He's just going to go to that specific area, collect the stuff, go back and dump it somewhere. Right? So that's what I'm talking about. So once you start connecting things, people, and can start connecting people, processes, and data together, everything starts making sense. And you can have more visibility on the things. Your city can become more productive in that way. And you can take more informed decisions, and you can have a very positive impact on the environment itself. But that's just one example. If you have the time at the end, you might talk about some economical impact of having smartness or smart service or smart city. What economical impact, direct or indirect? But for now, I don't want to waste time on that. So that was one of the things, right? Now, zoom out, imagine a complete city running those sort of services. So imagine I have a proper smart waste management system where, as I explained to you, things talk to people, things talk to systems, and the whole system runs automatically and efficiently. Imagine if I can do a smart parking like that. So before I leave home, I can look at, okay, I'm going to that area, what's the traffic, not traffic, what's the parking condition, right? And imagine from the management point, from the traffic, from the roads and transportation authority point of view, they can actually see which area is more crowded, during what time of the day, what time of the year, and where does really require to invest in terms of parking space and all that. Right? So there are so many different use cases that a smart city can have, and that's basically what we're talking about here. These are just a few of them: traffic management, public safety, city lighting, basically energy management, pollution and environment, waste management, and parking optimization. But since the session is about smart city and the challenges that we have come across usually in a smart city, this is the right point to highlight a very basic and very obvious point. You take Pakistan as an example, or take Islamabad as an example, and you fit all these categories into different departments. All of these smart services or smart services with me falls under a different department altogether. Right? So smart lighting might fall into energy management. Traffic management falls into your traffic police department, and so on and so forth. All the different services fall into different departments or different ministries, for example, altogether. The dilemma that ultimately comes down to, if I want to have one unified view of the city, it either becomes very complex, or at worst it can be almost impossible to have one single unified view. The reason is because all these individual departments, they do not talk to each other, right? They do not share any cost, they do not share any IT infrastructure, they do not share any services, they do not share any databases. So this means if, let's say, Islamabad police starts installing physical security cameras, CCTV cameras, or security force started installing those cameras, you have to go under the hood. And you see, I mean, those cameras or those devices are going to be connected to something, right? They have to be connected either over wireless or a wired connection. So that means there must be a backend infrastructure that all these devices are going to connect to. And the problem is exactly there. Because every department, when they're going to enable their department with smartness, they'll have to replicate the exact thing, let's say what traffic department did, what municipality did, what waste management did. So basically, we are replicating, reinventing the wheel every time we roll out a service. And on top of that, we do not share any information. That's one of the challenges. And we'll see how what's the point of highlighting this, right? And another aspect of a smart city is, so let's say even if I unify the entire infrastructure, right? I say, okay, the entire city is going to have exactly same infrastructure. The city management is going to own that infrastructure. They're going to run fiber across the whole city. They're going to have all the switching, routing infrastructure laid in place. But still, the data is going to go to different departments altogether, right? And they could be in a different format altogether. You can have, I don't know how many of you are familiar with are into databases and all that, but you can have structured data, you can have unstructured data. You can have a mix of that. You can have big data, you can have data lakes in there, right? All of those different data stores are going to exist in different formats and different views and tables. And a challenge on top of that is, when it comes to IoT or smart cities, the sensors generate such a huge amount of information or such a huge amount of data that if you let all this data come through the uplinks, come through the wireless or wired connections, it's just going to throttle on it, and you're going to continue in a race against a bandwidth. So you're going to say, okay, today I have these many sensors, they have consumed all the 1 gig uplink. I'm going to need more uplinks to accommodate more services. So there's a need to do data processing at the edge itself. I don't want to send all the entire data back to the data center or to analytics platforms. I want to process the data locally at the edge, where I collect the data, I intelligently identify what data needs to be sent back, and what needs to stay on-prem. And then I need to have a capability on top of it. Whenever I require, I should be able to access data from all these different formats. I should be able to access it from structured data, from unstructured data, from data streams that were there, the temporary storage that I had on the edge side. So there's a need to have a kind of middleware that does that kind of management, data management as well. So if you look at it, in a smart city, we saw smart city services, and then we probably was able to highlight the challenges. And if you notice, there are two major challenges. One is around the infrastructure. I need to have a unified infrastructure. And the second one is the data analytics. So basically, I need to build a city-wide fabric that is unified, that is consistent across the whole city. probably owned by a single owner, at least as far as the infrastructure is concerned, not the data probably. And then I have to have a data analytic fabric as well, which would be common to all of those data sources. So the next part of the talk is about how do we build that, right? How do we build that? This is a framework. This is a generic, very high-level framework of how the connected analytics, the entire stack should look like. And if you look at it, at the bottom of the foundation itself, the foundation is all about connectivity. It's all about infrastructure. You cannot have any service. You cannot have any smart service. You cannot have any device connected or IoT unless you have a physical infrastructure. So the importance of having a physical infrastructure is huge at times people underestimate. If you look at the bottom of this, bottom of the stack, so these are the devices or these are the things or objects that connects, right? And then it connects through different various methods. There's wireless, there's wired connections, and these are basically the two main factors, and then there are subcategories of them. And once I have the things connected, the real action begins on the top, which is basically collecting all that data, making sense out of it, building analytic packages around it. And then once I have all those analytic packages, building a business intelligence on top. And that top layer could be a unified command and control room where I see the entire city infrastructure, not infrastructure, the entire city services that I'm offering. And at the same time, it could be offered as services to the citizens. So once I have collected all that information across the city, I can have a smart app for the citizens. And if we have time, we'll see examples of those as well. So let's begin with the foundation. So as I was saying, regardless what service you're going to offer a service to the citizen, you're going to offer a service to the management, you're going to offer services to the businesses. All of that is going to require a foundational network. And when it comes to city, and when it comes to city, as I highlighted before, we want to avoid that siloed approach. So this means the city management has to take this up. They have to take leadership or ownership of this project or whatever you can call it. So they have to own this infrastructure. They have to lay down the infrastructure in the entire city. So that tomorrow, if a certain department or a certain business or a certain service provider wants to deliver a service, I already have the infrastructure laid down. And to be honest, when I deliver talk, I usually refer to this infrastructure, especially when it comes to smart city, as veins and arteries of the city. And the services that you supply through these arteries and veins is blood, basically. And once you have the entire city flooded with that veins and arteries, flooding a service on top of it is not going to be a big deal. It's just going to be a matter of coming up with an idea and delivering the service on top. And once it comes to infrastructure, we're still on infrastructure and foundation of it. Since most of you folks here are from academic background or into academics, probably it could be a good topic for you on the research side as well. So today this is the landscape of the wireless technology. And by the majority of the people mix wireless and Wi-Fi. There's a huge difference between these two, right? So I won't go into the details, research on that. What's the difference between Wi-Fi and wireless? But what I'm referring to is a wireless technology, all the wireless technologies. And those wireless technologies exist on these different landscapes. It's consumer-based wireless. So the most common one that you know is the Bluetooth, BLEs, or the NFC. The wireless technology or the enterprise industrial use cases falls under Wi-Fi, 3G, and all those other categories. But there are new standards coming up. There are new frequencies that are being adopted, the unmanaged frequencies. So when it comes to smart cities, these are the few upcoming wireless technologies that are very updated. Right? So the most famous one out of this, which is I think near to becoming a standard as well, is the LoRa. And it is owned by, today it was launched through Samtec, but it is now, I think, in the phases of becoming a standard as well. And the concept here is basically, it utilizes unlicensed frequencies, low frequencies in the band. And with a low frequency, what you get is, most of you are from, if you are from engineering that, with low frequency, you get greater ranges. Right? So what we're talking about is low frequency, long range wireless technology. And the cool thing about this is, the connector, the sensors that you're going to connect to this, or the sensors that will be capable of talking to LoRa, wouldn't require any permanent source of electricity, for example. Since it's low frequency, the devices that are going to talk LoRa won't require much of energy or power, won't have much power required. And that's why today in the market, if you go and look for LoRa-based parking sensors, you will find sensors that can run up to 10 to 15 years on just one single battery. It's a parking sensor. You go buy this sensor, dump it into ground, and you have a LoRa gateway. It starts talking to it. You have a controller in the back end. It's as simple as that. So rolling out technologies based on LoRa is very, very, very fast. So I would say, like, if you guys are into projects and all, just start exploring what innovation, what ideas we can bring around in smaller scale, bigger scale, or whatever, and research around. And then there are some of the other like the Sigfox, another one that's upbeat, but the most famous one is the LoRa today these days. So what happened so far? I've built the infrastructure. I've supplied arteries and veins into the city, and on top of that, I've provided a connectivity method as well, which is I say, okay, I'm going to provide you some wireless technology, and this could be this entire portfolio I've got. So once I have that, I have the sensors connected. Those sensors are going to start shooting data now. They're going to start processing data. A traditional way of doing or acquiring that data or processing that data would be, a sensor generates data, I send it back to the data center or a central location and does the processing. Cool. But what you're forgetting is there's a pattern. So there's a certain limit to, from this sensor going to that data center, there's a limitation on the pattern. It could be anything, right? So it could be a 100 Mbps connection, it could be a 1 gig connection, 4 gig, there is a limit on that connection. It's not an unlimited resource that you have. So it's not very intelligent to send all the desired or undesired data back to the data center, whereas probably if you know that you're going to throw away half of that data, or probably you're not going to immediately need that data. So I can bring that, so that's where the concept of fog computing comes in. And the concept of fog computing is I bring processing down to the edge level. Right? So yes, data center, all the analytics are going to run in the backend for sure, but I'm going to take a part of that processing power and bring it down near to the edge, where the actual data is being generated. And once I do that, what I'm doing is I'm making my bandwidth or uplinks more productive. So what I can do is I can select data on-prem. I can say, on-premise, I probably don't need to send XYZ, and this could remain on site for another 2 or 3 months, but the rest of the data is required immediately in the backend. I send it in the backend. Right? So that's where the fog computing comes, and that's what the concept of fog computing is. You bring the processing power down near to the edge. We are building smart city at the moment, by the way, right? So we are halfway through, in fact 75% through. So we have the infrastructure, we have the connectivity method, and we have the data pumping through the pipes, right? But where is this data is going to go? So this data is going to go into the problem one that we saw, where siloed approach, right? So if it's a traffic management system, it's going to go to a traffic department, which is going to have their own way of dealing data or having their own databases or whatever, own views. If it's waste management, it's probably going to go to the municipality data center. If it's energy management, it's probably going to go to some electrical department or something, right? So data is still moving in different data sources. So I'll fix the problem with having a unified fabric of the infrastructure, but I still have silos of the data source. So that's where basically the concept of data virtualization comes into play. And the idea is you can have as many types of sources, data sources that you want or like. I don't care. I don't even care about what type of data it is. It could be a structured data, it could be unstructured, it could be an Excel sheet, it could be just files laying around, it could be big data, data lakes, whatever it is. What I'm talking about is building a middleware and enabling that middleware to run network queries on the fly. Which means on this middleware, I can define logical use of the file. I can say I need information, and that information, part of that information comes from the traffic department, part of that comes from community systems, part of that comes from lighting management system or whatever, right? And once I have that logical view created, every time I need that information, I just go contact that middleware or contact that fabric layer. Consider this as logical data warehouse. So if you are familiar with the terminology data warehouse usually stores all the structured, the unstructured data as a fixed asset. There is a fixed amount of that. The difference between this and that is you do not require storage. It's a network-based logical data warehouse wherein you access the sources of data whenever you require, the way you require, the amount you require. So with this, basically, you get the flexibility of, so basically you're not restricted to this data source alone. That, okay, I do not have this type of data, I don't have these types of speeds, or I'm lacking this information. So as long as that data is available in any part of the world, let's say in a bigger picture, or any part of my department or my jurisdiction, I can access it. All I need to do is define my requirement, what actually I want to see, and build the logical views, execute those views, and those views go fetch the data for you. Once I have that on the abstraction layer, or I have normalized the data, you can call it normalization layer as well. Once I have normalized the data, I can have a northbound connection. By northbound, north is always up. So by northbound, I mean I can have a business intelligence on top of it. It could be a dashboard, it could be a smart city application, it could be any business-oriented application. The point is, you have the data, the variety of data, and it's on your disposal. The way you want to create it, the way you want to organize it, that's done for you. Utilize it as you want. It could be a dashboard, command and control center, or whatever. So once that's done, now I can actually build a command and control center. I can have a very cool looking NASA style command and control center, huge dashboard screens, where I can get all the information of the city, regardless which department it is from. So that is, I would see that as a vision of having a full end-to-end smart city. But fortunately, unfortunately, or whatever you want to call it, every time a city goes on to that rampage, or a city goes on to defining smartness, they always come up with the definition. Every city has their own definition of smartness, like what the smart city is going to be. First question basically comes into mind. Okay, I'm going to invest on this infrastructure, and I think this is very important. We always overlook this part of it. So the first thing people ask, okay, I'm going to invest this huge amount of money on the infrastructure, laying these arteries and veins and pumping data through that, organizing bandwidth and having data stores and data warehouses and I don't know whatnot. What's the ROI on it? What am I going to get out of this? Is there a monetary value, monetary return on this? And the answer is no. You do not get a single dollar, direct dollar in your pocket out of it. So if a waste management system, if waste management system is deployed, nobody's going to get a dollar value. But what you get out of it is a very advanced city. A city which is high, upbeat on the economical growth, and a city where people would like to stay and live and retire from. And when you talk about city, don't be naive about it, right? So we're not talking about specific tech, we're not talking about technology. We're talking about making people's life better. And when you make people's life better, they like to spend, they feel relaxed. And when they spend, the city grows. And when the city grows, basically, that translates into, or that contributes to your country's GDP at a much higher level. So whenever you see, or whenever you wouldn't see money coming out of a smart service in any part of the world. But what you will actually see is, or look or feel, is the city booming. Hear good things about city. People wanting to spend in that city, and people want to live in that city. I'm from Dubai. So Dubai has got a 2020, not from Dubai, I'm from Pakistan, but I live in Dubai. So they have a target, 2020. So they got this project that they will deliver in 2020. The shape of Dubai, so big people have the vision, right? But I think it's a perfect vision. His vision, one line, I want happy citizens. If you look today, I was on the radio listening to it. Ads going on the DSF, Dubai Shopping Festival. Ads going on, so many other things. There are Pakistanis there investing a huge amount of money in there. Indians, Pakistanis. People from the Europe, that's their retirement plan. I mean, people are coming to Emirates. They want to live there just not because of the tax-free environment, but also because it's more secure and more safe and more upbeat on the map.
Please take 5 more minutes.
So that's what I'm talking about, right? So the impact of having a smart city is not going to be a direct economic value, but what you'll see is happy citizen at the end of the day, which will result in more spending, more influx of the tourism, more influx of the foreign investment, and that will help your city economical growth, adding a huge value into country's GDP growth. Thanks. That's all for you.